Bonjour tout le monde, welcome back to We in France. I'm Diane, and today we're going to talk about French habits. Now, being married to a French guy and all, you'd think that some of his Frenchness would have rubbed off on me, and let's be real, some of it probably has. I lived most of my life in the US, so there are plenty of French things that I just don't understand or do like a French person would. And that's probably a good and a bad thing. You can only adapt so much. But anyway, jokes aside, I want to get right into it with number one. Okay. Eating a sweet breakfast. Now, I made a whole video on what the French eat for breakfast, and a quick sugary pastry or yogurt or even a baguette with jam is not my style at all. That's not what I eat in the morning. But breakfast is my favorite meal of the day, and I'm personally not a fan of overly sweet, small breakfast. And I'd much rather sit down to a hearty omelet, something protein heavy to give me sustenance for the day. I'm a big fan of steel-cut oats, which you really can't find here. Regular oats, yes, but steel-cut ones are a little harder to come by. Throw some berries in there, and that's one of my favorite breakfast options. Or maybe eggs and just something like that. Okay, number two. I'm not a volet master like the French are, and just for your information, les volets, they are window shutters. Now, I personally couldn't care less about whether the window shutters stay open or closed at night, except when I wake up in the morning, come down to a pitch black kitchen, then I start caring. I faithfully open the shutters downstairs so I can see my cup of coffee in the light of day. But honestly, beyond that, I don't bother with the shutters unless I have to. That opening and closing each morning and evening, that's reserved for my French guy, my husband Tom, who grew up with them. He's used to this whole volet dance, where you open and close them each day. For me, the shutters, they look like hurricane shutters in a lot of cases on apartments. And we're not in Florida here. So for me, they're still not a normal thing that I partake in every day. Now, Tom, he sometimes wonders why, in the morning, I wake up earlier. Well, he'll walk into a room downstairs and he'll wonder why I'm still sitting in the dark, or a room at night and I'm there with my lamp on, full view of people outside because I've left the shutters open. It's not automatic in my mind that we still have to close the volets when it gets dark. Blinds, curtains, they work just fine for me for most of my life in the US before I came to France, and that's what I got used to. Now, again, for me, in France, I find it a bit of a chore to open and close the windows, especially in the middle of winter, like now. Tom is really good about doing that whole shutter dance, we split the chores, and that's one that he does. But if he didn't do that, they'd definitely be left open 24/7 if it were just me. Our ones upstairs are always left open if he's not here. Our house does have manual shutters, except for one window downstairs, so you actually have to open your window and then stick your arms out to close and open the volets. And it's not too fun when it's freezing cold out and you're letting all that cold air in for 30 seconds to do that around your house a few times. Our one downstairs does have a rod that you turn to raise and lower the shutters, so you don't have to open the window and let that heat or cool air in. But in all seriousness, the volet shutters, they do serve a purpose: security, climate control, and privacy. And pretty much every house and apartment in France has some version of them, manual or automatic. All right, next. I buy a baguette from the bakery probably only once or twice a month. Now, the majority of French people really do buy baguettes daily, or at least several times per week. They're a staple in French culture, and the booming bakery business will definitely confirm that. I did a whole series on bakeries in France you should check out. But truth be told, again, I spend about €2 a month on baguettes at the bakery, and I buy them here and there or when my in-laws visit. Now, the bread is good here. It is excellent in France and I enjoy it, but it hasn't made it into my daily routine. I don't go seek out a boulangerie come 5 p.m. or something, or every morning, because I actually like other varieties of bread better. So I'll go to the bakery, again, not daily, but I will buy specialty breads for sandwiches, le pain de mie, maybe a nice boule sliced up for toast in the morning here and there. And I'm sure many of you are like, oh my gosh, Diane, you're crazy. And you'll disagree with me down in the comments, but I personally, again, it's just me, I don't feel like most meals are missing anything if they don't have a fresh baguette. So yes, I go to the bakery, I love French bread, but baguettes aren't usually my go-to. I go for other varieties. And Tom is not a bread fiend either, so we often go without our daily baguette and we're both fine with it. All right, next up, I don't make French style coffee. Now, people complain that American coffee is weak, and yeah, in some cases it is. You like, what you get used to, and I think options are a good thing. Now, one thing to remember is that in France, if you pop into a French cafe and you ask for un café s'il vous plaît, you're going to be given a tiny black shot of espresso strength coffee in a little cup that will take you about 2 sips to finish. We're talking mini, right? Now, there are other options, although the shot of espresso en café is super, super common. So when I'm making coffee for myself in the comfort of my own home, I do it my way. And that usually is a filter, like a filtered coffee with a pour over cone that fills up my big mug. Tom doesn't drink coffee, so I just do it, 1 mug at a time, and that's delicious to me. Even when we go to my in-laws' house, when they brew a pot of coffee, it's often so strong that I have to cut it with water and often a little milk. And when French people come to visit us, of course, I have their options available. I have the Nespresso machine out on the counter, and people have options. So I guess I'm a little set in my ways when it comes to coffee. It's like my favorite part of the day, getting up early, having my coffee, and I personally feel there's nothing like drip coffee. I love it. All right, next, I don't really care for classic French specialties, things like oysters, boudin noir, like blood sausage, or tripe. And I know many people love these foods, but they don't jive with me. So I never make them in my own home, and I definitely don't pick them off a menu when I'm out at a restaurant. And I did a whole video on this that you can check out. But I'm simple when it comes to food, and that often fits into French culture quite well. And when you go to a French restaurant, you're gonna often find quality food prepared simply, often local foods. And when simple things are prepared well, that really goes a long way, and that stuff's easy to find. So forget the crazy specialties. Not into them, and a lot of French people aren't either, so you'll see that in the comments of the video that I link. All right, next, I switch up the order of things at mealtime, often on purpose, and I eat early. If I'm cooking at home for myself where no one else is affected, I've been known to eat salad before or even with my meal, not after, like many French people do. I'll bust out some cheese with the main course instead of eating it after, and the order of things just isn't as important to me as it would be maybe to a French person. I just do what's best for my digestion, for my habits. And I feel that the French, they have a more systematized way of doing things. And that's fine when I'm at a French person's house or have French people over as guests. They'll eat savory before the sweet, and then they'll save their salad and cheese until after the main course. But I feel like it gets all jumbled up in your stomach anyway, so what the heck, right? And again, if I'm home by myself, I generally like to eat my own dinner at 7 or 7:30 p.m., not at 8 p.m., which is typical for a lot of French people, or even after 8 p.m. I go to bed early, I wake up early, and that's just what feels good to me. But I will say that over the years, my dinner time has kind of skewed later and later. But as I said, if I'm alone, I cook a bit earlier for myself, 7:30. All right, next up, that social politeness thing. Okay, these days, most of the time I'm 90 to 95% there. I interact socially like a French person would. Back in the day, maybe I'd give myself 70%. I still probably smile a little more. Maybe that gives me away, I don't know. But, since I moved to France in 2012, I've come a long way on this whole social politeness thing. I make sure to say my bonjour, my s'il vous plaît. I respect these social boundaries, the polite conversational norms that I've talked about a lot on this channel. But sometimes my North American upbringing, it takes over and I might get into a little small talk. I feel like the French get a bad rap. They might come across as cold to foreigners who have different social norms because small talk isn't a cultural norm in France like we sometimes do in the US. These questions where maybe we cross the line into one's personal sphere, even though it's normal in the US, might be seen as unusual or even a little rude in France if you ask people too many personal questions when you don't know them. So check out the video here for more on small talk so you kind of get the nuance. All right, the last one. I'm very proud to have not adapted to the French way, and this is smoking. And I absolutely despise smoking, for the record. I've never smoked. And culturally, I feel like Americans are way more anti-smoking than the French. Maybe it was the DARE education program in my school. If you grew up in the 80s and 90s, you know what I'm talking about. But overall, I feel like in the US, smoking is not looked at as something cool or even socially acceptable in a lot of circles. Like friends and family will pressure their loved ones to quit in the US because it's not something that's okay. And in France, I feel like the French tolerate smoking so much more, and it's something that people of all classes engage in, especially socially. There's not that pressure to quit. And it wasn't until I came to France that I saw young teens, like 13 years old, smoking outside of their school. And yeah, I'm sure there are 13-year-olds who smoke in the US outside school, but nowhere near the extent to which you'll see this in France. You'll definitely notice it when visiting France that it seems like a lot of people smoke. And just for some stats, according to the Foundation for a Smoke-Free World, in France, 27.4% of men and 20.8% of women over 15 years old were current smokers a few years ago in 2019. And to contrast that with the US, according to the CDC, it's just 12.5% of US adults currently smoke as of 2020. So back to France, the prevalence rate for young smokers, it increased in 2014 at 23.3% to 30.3% in 2019. And yeah, I'm happy to say this is one French habit that is not going to rub off on me because yeah, I am not a fan of cigarettes or cigarette smoke or any of the health problems that come with that. Now, to be clear, I'm always respectful of the French way of life, but when I'm home and my actions only affect me, I do things my way. You know, I'll never actually be French. And truth be told, I came to France thinking I had to learn everything about France and the French way of life, and then do my best to be exactly like that to thrive. Almost like I had to copy the French to fit in here, down to a T. And I stupidly thought I kind of had to dim my spirit and dim what makes me Diane. And by doing that, I feel like it can really chip away at who you are after a while. So I quickly got over that and realized that you can still honor and respect French customs, learn about them, and take them on in your own way and be all the happier for it. It's totally okay to do things that make sense for you, especially in your own home. So if they make you feel the most comfortable and connected to your own culture, I'm all for it. And with that, I'm going to stop here for today. I want to know down below from you what French habits you've picked up pretty easily and which ones don't come as naturally for you, if there's anything maybe that you struggled with or that you still struggle with. And if you haven't subscribed or given this video a thumbs up yet, I would love for you to hit that button right there and do that. It really does help the channel. And as always, merci. I'll see you back here on We in France soon. Salut!